So, imagine for a second that you're opening a beautifully wrapped gift from your mother-in-law.
Okay,
Simple
smooth
stuff,
enough.
right? Usually. You look at these brand new baby clothes folded inside, but then it hits you. You realize you are actually looking at an act of war.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a dramatic shift.
It really is. You're holding a weapon that's basically designed to dismantle your family from the inside out.
Because today's deep dive is really about what happens when generosity is completely weaponized, isn't it?
Exactly. Welcome, everyone. We are exploring a highly charged, just deeply personal firsthand account today. It's titled Refuting the Gifts of a Fanatic Matriarch.
Such an intense title.
It is, yeah. And our mission today is to pull apart this really complex machinery of toxic family dynamics. We're looking at, the paralyzing effect of a passive partner, the psychology of immovable prejudice, and just,
The absolute breaking point.
yeah, the breaking point of a parent who is pushed completely to the edge.
Because the source material we have is from a father who has endured like a 5-year psychological siege.
A literal siege, yeah, from his partner's intensely hostile mother. And I have to tell you, the climax of this account is staggering.
It really is. I mean, it involves a covertly smuggled package of children's clothes, a massive betrayal of trust, and
And a final text message that explicitly tells a grandmother her gifts are from Satan.
which is just a masterclass in how unspoken rules and passive-aggressive behavior can slowly suffocate a household.
Right, until it leads to this dramatic scorched earth retaliation.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get to that explosive package, we really have to understand the battlefield here.
We need the baseline. Yeah.
Right, so the baseline here is a 5-year relationship. The narrator and his partner, they share a home. They have a child together.
And he's really invested in this life.
Heavily. Like 4 years ago, the narrator actually founded a successful business for his partner. He has provided absolute stability.
So if you look at the societal scorecard, right, he has done everything, quote unquote, right.
Exactly. He's proven his worth as a partner and a father on paper.
What's fascinating here is how the narrator operates under the assumption of a meritocracy.
Right, like hard work pays off.
Yeah, he believes that by demonstrating his commitment, by building a business, by literally providing the roof over their heads, he can somehow offset the mother's initial disapproval.
Which is such a logical way to think.
It is. It's a very human assumption that evidence of good character will eventually change someone's mind.
But it's like trying to fill a bucket with no bottom.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because he keeps pouring in this stability, the financial success, the commitment, but none of it actually accumulates.
Not at all.
Because the mother's hatred for him has been absolute since day one. And this isn't just like a personality clash,
No, the source material is very clear. It outlines that the mother holds extreme racist views.
Yeah, it's awful. She explicitly states that people of the narrator's race cannot be trusted.
Going so far as to tell her own daughter that dogs are better than us. That was the exact quote.
Which is just, it's horrific.
That specific language points directly to the fundamental nature of her hostility. When prejudice is that deeply entrenched, the normal human impulse to just win someone over,
It becomes a trap, doesn't it?
it becomes a complete trap. The mother's hatred is not a reaction to his actions at all. It is a projection of a closed psychological system.
Right.
In a healthy dynamic, a mother-in-law sees a thriving daughter, a happy grandchild, a successful business, and she feels relief.
She thinks, oh, good, my kid is taken care of.
Exactly. But for someone operating on pure prejudice, the reality of his success actually threatens her worldview.
So his success almost makes it worse.
Yes.
Because admitting he's a good father means admitting her entire racial philosophy is garbage.
Precisely. It's the opposite of what the narrator intended. When a deeply held prejudice is contradicted by reality, the person often experiences this intense cognitive dissonance.
So it's like her brain can't handle the contradiction.
Right, and rather than enduring the psychological pain of admitting they were wrong about an entire group of people, they just double down.
They dig their heels in.
Yeah, they find ways to invalidate the evidence so they can keep their prejudice intact.
And the method she uses to invalidate his existence is wild, like truly wild.
The religious aspect.
Yeah. She frames her hostility through the lens of extreme religious fanaticism. The source describes her as a fanatical Catholic.
Right, so she doesn't just quietly dislike him.
No, she turns this into a divine mission. She regularly sets up candles, she fasts, she prays for days on end.
And the stated goal of all these rituals is so that her daughter will, quote, one day return home.
Which is insane. Like, isn't this the daughter's home now?
You would think so?
They have been together for 5 years. They share a child and a business. It just feels like she's so tangled up in her own delusions that she treats a permanent family unit like a temporary kidnapping.
It's a refusal of reality.
Yeah, so by framing it as a return home, she never actually has to process the reality that he even exists. It's almost like a psychological firewall.
That is exactly the mechanism at play here. Human brains are incredibly adept at protecting themselves from uncomfortable truths.
Wow. Yeah.
If she acknowledges that her daughter is already home, she has to acknowledge the narrator. She has to grapple with the existence of the grandchild's father and the 4-year-old business.
And she just can't do that.
No. So by constantly praying for a return, she uses her religion as a tool of total denial.
The fasting and the candles, they aren't even purely spiritual acts then.
Not at all. They are active coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
They allow her to erase him from the narrative entirely and, elevate her bigotry into this righteous crusade.
It's terrifying to think about navigating that on a daily basis. She has basically cast herself as a holy martyr, saving her child from an evil captor.
Right.
But, I mean, a fanatic can't sustain a 5-year siege without someone leaving the gates open, which kind of forces us to look at the partner.
The person caught in the middle.
Yeah. Where is the person connecting these two warring factions?
Well, the narrator is clearly agonizing over that exact question. He outlines this brutal internal conflict.
Because he doesn't want to be the bad guy.
Right. He desperately wants to avoid being the controlling partner who demands his spouse block her own mother. He recognizes the toxicity of giving ultimatums.
He wants to take the high road, but he looks down the line and sees absolutely no path to a functional relationship.
None.
And the partner's default response to all of this venom is just, well, that's just how my mom is. I can't change her.
We hear that phrase constantly in the study of dysfunctional family systems. Constantly.
So what does this all mean? Because I genuinely believe that's just how they are is one of the most destructive phrases you can introduce into a relationship.
I completely agree.
On the surface, it masquerades as acceptance, right? Or emotional maturity. But underneath, it just acts as a permanent free pass for terrible behavior.
It absolves the abuser of any accountability.
Exactly. It takes the entire burden of managing the mother's toxicity and drops it squarely on the victim's shoulders.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the partner's passivity is the structural weakness that allows the mother's abuse to enter the home.
The structural weakness, I like that.
In family systems theory, there is a concept called enmeshment. It's where personal boundaries are diffused and one person is completely tangled in another's emotional state.
So they can't separate their feelings from their parents' feelings.
Right. The partner has likely spent her entire life managing her mother's extreme emotions. She functions basically like a crumple zone in a car.
Ooh, I like that analogy. A crumple zone is designed to absorb the impact of a crash to protect the passenger cabin.
Exactly the dynamic here.
Mm.
Except she is using herself, and by extension her own family, as the crumple zone to absorb the mother's hostility.
Desperately trying to keep her from escalating.
Yeah. But the flaw in that design is that a crumple zone still gets crushed.
Wow. Yeah, it does.
When she says, I can't change her, she is factually correct. You cannot change another adult. But she entirely ignores her agency to change the boundaries around her own life.
She has the power to say no.
Yes. By refusing to establish those borders, her passivity effectively sanctions the mother's racism. She forces the narrator to absorb the attacks completely alone.
And the pressure is just compounding year after year. We have the immovable prejudice, the religious firewall, and now the crumple zone partner.
It's a recipe for disaster.
And it finally boils over. Not with a shouting match, but with a seemingly innocent package. Here's where it gets really interesting.
The Trojan horse.
Yeah. The narrator happens to see text messages on his partner's phone. It's the mother, predictably insulting his race again. But she adds a very specific, calculated comment.
What'd you say?
She texts, "My child doesn't need a father."
A surgical strike at his core identity and his value within that household.
Right on the heels of that text message, a package arrives in the mail from the mother. It is full of clothes and items for the grandchild.
The timing is not a coincidence.
No. The narrator instantly interprets this package as a massive insult. He looks at it and reads the underlying message as, "You're useless, and I'm going to send this nice package to make you feel worse."
We really must evaluate that interpretation against the reality of the child's actual needs, though.
Oh, totally. The narrator makes a strong point of clarifying that their daughter lacks nothing. They are financially well off.
She has everything she needs.
Yeah, she is always getting new things. He mentions she literally just got a new trampoline.
A trampoline.
She is entirely provided for and perfectly happy. So these gifts are completely unnecessary for her well-being. It is the definition of a Trojan horse.
It really is.
It's a weapon smuggled through the front door under the camouflage of sweet grandmotherly love. If you complain, you look ungrateful or paranoid, but the intent is purely hostile.
Weaponized gifting is a brilliant, insidious tactic. I mean, look at the timeline. First, she sends a text message explicitly declaring, "My child doesn't need a father."
Yeah.
Then, she sends a package of basic necessities, clothes and shoes. The package serves as the physical manifestation of that text message.
She is trying to prove her own text message by sending the box.
Precisely. She is attempting to forcefully step into the provider role. By sending items the child doesn't even need, she is trying to manufacture a narrative where the narrator is inadequate.
And she's the hero.
Yeah, she is the savior stepping in to fill the gap. She bypasses him entirely to assert dominance over the family unit, communicating that she is the true provider.
But a Trojan horse only works if someone actually opens the city gates and pulls it inside.
Right, it needs an accomplice.
And in this case, the partner is the one operating the gates. The cover-up here is staggering. The partner receives this package from the mother who just texted that her child doesn't need a father, and she decides to hide the package.
Concealing the physical evidence of the mother's intrusion.
Yeah, and the way the narrator discovers this is almost cinematic. He doesn't find the box right away. He just slowly starts noticing his toddler appearing in new clothes.
Like a new pair of shoes here and there.
Exactly. It starts with the shoes. He knows they didn't buy them. He puts two and two together, confronts his partner, and she caves.
She admits it.
She admits she guessed he wouldn't like it, so she kept the package hidden because she wasn't sure how he would react.
We are seeing the extreme consequences of conflict avoidance here.
I have to push back on the partner's logic, though. She claims she hid it because she was afraid of how he would react.
Right.
Why on earth isn't she infinitely more afraid of her mother continuously insulting the father of her child? Think about the sheer absurdity of the mechanics here.
It's pretty wild.
She is literally sneaking shoes onto a toddler behind her partner's back just to avoid having an uncomfortable conversation.
It really highlights how deeply conditioned victims of toxic parenting can be.
Conditioned to just keep the peace at all costs.
Yes. They're often trained from childhood to prioritize the abuser's emotional regulation above all else, including their own reality and their own chosen family.
Wow.
By hiding the package and covertly slipping the items onto the child, the partner crosses a massive line. She transitions from being a passive bystander to being actively complicit in the mother's campaign.
She essentially becomes the smuggler for the enemy camp.
She executes the mother's agenda for her. We should, however, note a crucial silver lining that the narrator emphasizes here.
Oh, about the daughter. Yeah.
Right. Amidst all this deception and psychological warfare, he ensures the listener knows the child was completely unaware of the package's arrival or the conflict it caused.
The daughter just thought she got some cool new shoes to wear on her trampoline.
Exactly. Despite the adults entirely failing to navigate this crisis healthily, the narrator remained hyper-vigilant about shielding the child from the toxic crossfire.
Which is huge.
It is. Her world remained happy and secure, which speaks volumes about his actual capacity as a father, the very capacity the mother is trying to deny.
He is aggressively protecting the foundation for his daughter, even as his partner allows the walls to crumble.
But you can only play defense for so long.
Yeah, before exhaustion takes over. The discovery of those hidden clothes is the final straw.
5 years of accumulated tension, racial abuse, and invalidation finally demanding a release.
After half a decade of absorbing the religious fanaticism, the bottomless prejudice, and now the outright betrayal of trust from his own partner,
He snaps.
the narrator decides he is done. He bypasses the passive partner entirely. He takes the agency back. He hunts down the rest of the hidden clothes in the house.
Gathering the remaining contents of the Trojan horse.
Yeah, and he takes the entire package of brand new clothes and throws it straight into the garbage bin.
That is a massive statement.
It is. I want you to mentally picture the sheer level of frustration it takes to physically take perfectly good children's clothes and throw them in the trash.
It goes against every instinct as a parent.
Right. That is not a temper tantrum. That is a desperate physical act of reclaiming sovereignty over your own household.
It is a profound rejection of the mother's influence, physically removing her manufactured narrative from his space.
But the physical act wasn't enough, you know? He needed to close the communication loop.
He had to send the message.
So he sends a direct message to the mother. It is incredibly brief. He writes, "We don't accept gifts from Satan, thank you."
Wow. This raises an important question about the exact terminology he deployed in that final moment.
It's an intense message. It's a definitive, immovable boundary just being slammed down onto the table.
It is absolute, but it's also strategically brilliant. Think back to our earlier discussion about the mother's framing of her hatred.
The Catholic thing.
Yes, she operates as a fanatical Catholic. She uses fasting, candles, and prayer as psychological weapons to invalidate his existence.
Her holy war to bring her daughter home.
Exactly the paradigm he targets. When he finally strikes back, he doesn't call her a racist. He doesn't call her a terrible grandmother or a meddling mother-in-law.
He uses the word Satan.
He specifically chose the one piece of language that would strike at the very core of her religious worldview. He is taking her own fanaticism and turning it back against her.
Oh, that is so smart.
In her mind, she is the righteous savior. By labeling her gift as coming from Satan, he unequivocally rejects her intrusion using the exact spiritual framework she used to attack him.
He flips the entire script. He strips away the camouflage of the baby clothes and basically says, you think you're the holy one here. Your actions are the literal embodiment of evil in this family.
It's a mirror being held up to her.
It cuts through all the polite societal expectations of gift-giving and exposes the hostility underneath.
It completely shatters the illusion. There is no room for misinterpretation or passive aggression after a message like that. The boundary is finally, unequivocally set.
And that wraps up our analysis of this incredibly intense account.
What a ride.
Yeah. We set out to explore the mechanics of toxic family relationships and weaponized generosity, and this source material illustrates those concepts with brutal clarity.
It really does.
A gift is never just a gift when it is attached to racism, disrespect, and a calculated attempt to usurp a parent's role in their own home.
Generosity with malicious strings attached isn't a gift. It's a snare designed to trap you in an endless cycle of obligation and disrespect.
So I want to ask you, listening, to reflect on the dynamics in your own life for a moment. Think about your family, your workplace, or your social circles.
It applies everywhere, really.
It does. How often do we tolerate unacceptable behavior simply under the guise of, well, that's just how they are? We use that phrase as a shield to avoid the discomfort of conflict.
It's easier in the short term.
Right. But as we've seen today, avoiding the conflict doesn't make the toxicity go away. It just smuggles it into your house, letting it slowly poison the environment from the inside.
Which leaves us with a critical thought to mull over. We watch the partner try desperately to avoid confrontation, acting as a crumple zone to keep the peace.
Yeah, sneaking shoes onto a toddler.
Right. But at what point does a partner's refusal to set boundaries with a toxic parent, their overwhelming desire to simply avoid conflict, actually make them the primary architect of the war in their own home?
That is heavy. You can't keep the peace by letting someone systematically chip away at the foundation of your family. Eventually, you have to decide what kind of house you're going to live in and who you are going to let through the front door. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.